Mirror, mirror on the wall, who's the cutest fairy tale princess of them all? Oh, nursery rhyme? Well, that makes sense. Okay, but who's the second cutest? Hello everyone, Soberoni of G&A Reviews here, bringing you a spotlight for the servant who's here to sprinkle a little Disney magic on your Halloween, Cinderella Liz. We'll be examining her stats and skills, as well as going over pointers on how to utilize her effectively, and an overall grade comparing her to how she stacks up to the other 4-star servants. So if you're ready for yet another Liz Halloween, then hit that like button, subscribe, and ring my bell so you can catch all of these spotlight videos as they go up, and you can help out the channel. And now, onto Liz's stats. Liz has a max HP of 11,058 and a max attack of 9,166. Her attack is about average for her class, but Liz's HP is on the low side for a rider. Similarly, outside of her class, Cinderella Liz's HP is below average, while her attack is decent. When it comes to her command cards, Liz has 4 hits on her quick card, 2 hits on her arts, 3 hits on her buster, and 4 hits on her extra card. She has an NP gain rate of 0.87% and a star rate of 9.1%. Liz's NP gain and star generating are both just average. Overall, Liz has one of the most balanced stat spreads of any servant, albeit very boring, as she is just average across the board with no real weaknesses or strengths. Taking a look at her skills, Liz's first skill is Snow White Princess rank B. This skill grants herself invincibility for 3 attacks, lasting for 3 turns. It also increases her NP gain rate between 20 and 30% depending on level, and as a demerit, it inflicts poison on her for 3 turns. Her second skill is Red Hood Slicer rank A. This skill increases her own buster card effectiveness for 3 turns between 20 and 30%. It increases her damage against wild beast enemies for 3 turns between 30 and 50%, both depending on level, and as a demerit, it will decrease her defense by 10% for 3 turns. And finally, her last skill is Glass Cinderella rank EX. This skill generates between 10 and 30 crit stars, and also charges Liz's NP gauge between 20 and 30%, both effects depending on level. However, as a demerit, it will inflict Skill Seal on Liz. Moving on to her passives, Liz has just one, and that's Riding rank EX. This passive will increase her quick card effectiveness by 12%. As for her deck, Noble Phantasm, Liz has a Buster Arts deck with Quick, Arts, Buster, 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 and a Buster Noble Phantasm. Her Noble Phantasm is Fairy Tale Elizabeth. It's a single target Buster attack that deals damage to an enemy with a modifier between 600 and 1000% depending on NP level. It also removes all of Liz's debuffs and increases the attack of all Fairy Tale servants for 3 turns between 20 and 40% depending on overcharge. Liz is actually one of the easier servants to level up, even for a welfare. For level ascension, she's just going to need 4 copies of the Idol Cinderella shoes, which you can obtain from the event. As for her skills, Liz will need 15 Yggdrasil seeds, 8 lamps, 20 Aurora steel, and 20 Spiritron orbs per skill. Okay, I know that you're all sick and tired of Liz by now. She's like that one kid who comes by every Halloween and takes all of the good candy that you were saving for yourself. But hear me out. What if, this Halloween, Liz was actually good? Now, her stats don't exactly pop out at you considering that she has some of the most average numbers I've ever seen across the board, but that isn't necessarily a bad thing. It means that she doesn't have any major weaknesses and she can be adequate at everything provided that she has the right skill set. And for what blandness she has in her stats, Cinderella Liz more than makes up for with her interesting skill set. Her first skill, Snow White Princess, is a stronger protection from arrows that gives Liz 3 hits of invincibility as well as a good buff to her NP gain, but at the cost of inflicting poison on herself for 3 turns. And this theme of really strong buffs paired with middling demerits is going to be consistent for Liz. And speaking of themes, Fairy Tale Liz has some of the best flavor and lore packed into her skill set that I've ever seen in a servant, and I really appreciate that, Lisangle. I'm an absolute sucker for a character's lore being reflected in their gameplay, and in this case, the poison demerit comes from the poisoned apple that Snow White eats in the story, so it's very fitting. In Liz's case though, this poison demerit is so small that it may as well not even matter, because in exchange, she's getting ridiculously strong and long-lasting invincibility on a crazy short cooldown, along with an NP gain steroid. Just like with Ku, it's easy to keep this protection from arrows effect up for most of the fight, making Liz surprisingly tanky. But Liz is also packing on offense with her second skill, Red Hood Slicer. This skill increases her buster card effectiveness by 30% for 3 turns, and it gives her a 50% buff against wild beast enemies, at the cost of decreasing her defense by 10%. Again, this skill has a flavorful nod nod to the story of Red Riding Hood by including that anti-beast boost. Practically speaking though, not many enemies fall under the wild beast category, mostly just mid-boss enemies like Hydras and Chimeras. The Buster buff however is pretty significant. 30% for 3 turns on such a short cooldown ensures that Liz can keep this buff active for most of the battle, and the defense down demerit is a little bit more significant than the poison, but it's also well worth the trade-off. And finally, Liz has Glass Cinderella, an NP charge and Star Bomb skill that also skill seals her. It's important to make sure that you always use this skill last in your rotation so that you can avoid that skill seal demerit, because it can be pretty nasty if you accidentally use this skill first and lock yourself out of your Buster buff. But still, that is a minor demerit for a decent NP battery on such a low 4-turn cooldown. In fact, Liz can abuse this easily multiple times per battle due to that short cooldown. And Star Bombs are especially effective for Rider servants due to their naturally high star weight, so this also helps Liz with her critting more often. For skill priority, make sure you level the NP charge first, followed by her Buster buff, and then invincibility last. And you can grab Mana Loading as her pen skill, that way she can hit 50% NP charge on turn 1, which enables all kinds of turn 1 NP combos. Liz's Noble Phantasm is a single target Buster attack that removes all debuffs from Liz and increases the attack of all Fairy Tail servants by up to 40%. This is a deceptively strong NP, and I'd argue it's one of the best single target Noble Phantasms among all of the SR servants. First of all, Liz is a free NP5 servant, so the damage is going to be very high on a single target Buster attack. Secondly though, Liz's Fairy Tail servant buff includes herself, and it activates prior to damage. It also lasts for 3 turns, so you can actually stack it with itself. That means that Liz actually has a mana burst built into her kit between this attack buff and her Buster buff, and when looping her Noble Phantasm, that buff gets even stronger. This gives Liz very strong cleaving potential, where she can easily shave through 2 or 3 enemy break bars because of her high scaling explosive damage that gets stronger turn after turn. On the other end of the spectrum though, debuff removal is an underrated and very powerful piece of utility. Not only does this allow Liz to protect herself from bosses who spam debuffs, which they love to do late game, but it also applies to her own debuffs as well. That's right, Liz can wipe away the demerits on her own skills just by using her NP, which makes them even less of a factor. If you pop all of Liz's skills the turn that you use your Noble Phantasm, you basically get all of the upside with no demerits. The debuff removal also protects Liz from having her attack decreased. If an enemy stacks attack down or Buster down on Liz, it doesn't matter because her debuff cleanse activates before damage, so in effect her NP can never be weakened by debuffs. Cinderella Liz is very well built for taking on challenge quests and boss battles, in large part because of how strong her NP is, but also because of the wide range of utility and buffs built into her kit, which are all on an incredibly short cooldown, which by the way can be easily exploited by Vinch. Outside of being able to cleave through enemy break bars though, Liz can also be a decent staller on Buster teams just due to how tanky her first skill makes her. When paired with the likes of Merlin or Mosh, she can stick around nearly forever. So Rider Liz has the rare mix of powerful nuke in her NP, incredible durability and tankiness, and excellent utility from her debuff cleanse. In a lot of ways, she's almost like a Buster version of Rider Kentucky. But if I had to make one complaint about Liz, it would be that her class isn't exactly the best suited for taking on boss battles. There are just better alternatives in more offensively focused classes like Zerkers and Avengers, and Liz doesn't have enough damage or game-breaking ability to elevate herself over the likes of someone like Herc or Luvia, but that's a good problem to have. As for team comps, ideally you're going to want to pair Liz with servants who can buff her NP damage and also provide her with additional NP charge, since she's going to be a servant who revolves around spamming her Noble Phantasm. Servants like Ozymandias, Merlin, Chengong, and Nightingale. All 4 are going to be able to give Liz very strong damage buffs while also charging her NP, or in Nightingale's case, keeping her alive in stall teams. Chengong's taunt also has good synergy with Liz's invincibility, since it can force an enemy to waste an NP or powerful attack on Liz while she can tank it. Liz's Bond CE is Glass Slippers that never rest. They increase the crit damage of Fairy Tail servants by 30%, but unfortunately these aren't worth using since the buff doesn't even play into Liz's role. Instead, give Liz CEs that bolster her NP damage, like Black Rail, Aerial Drive, Joint Recital, and Limited Zero. In the future, you can also give her CEs like Cranking, which is very similar to Aerial Drive, in case you missed out on it. It gives starting NP charge, as well as buffs Buster card effectiveness and NP damage. For command codes, any crit buffing code like Mistress of Heaven is good on Liz, since she can make use of the stars that she generates to crit fairly often. Overall, Cinderella Liz is a surprisingly strong addition to the Welfare Servant lineup. Her powerful protection from arrows and debuff removal allow her to be incredibly tanky ability in boss fights, she has a strong NP nuke that snowballs in damage and allows her to cleave through multiple enemy break bars with ease, and she scales amazingly well with the current buster supports available. Being a rider instead of a more powerful extra class or a Zerker is a bit disappointing, but that's really the only thing holding Liz back. So all in all, Cinderella Liz gets an A+ from me. She's easily one of the best welfare servants we've ever gotten, and her release coincides perfectly with the recent wave of buster supports to really make her shine. So if you're a new player looking for a powerful servant that you can build around, you can't go wrong with Liz. And those are my thoughts on Rider Liz. It took a long time, but between this Liz and Mecha Liz, it seems that Lysenko has finally made Liz great again. And by again, I mean for the first time. But what do you think? Let me know in the comments down below, and if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to leave a like, and consider subscribing if you really enjoyed the video. Join the party at our Discord, chill with us on Twitch, and follow us on Twitter, all linked in the description down below, and I'll see you all in the next servant spotlight. So Rony out. Later.